In today's podcast, I had the great pleasure to speak with one of my dear friends, Orla Foley. To all my German listeners, this is normally a German speaking podcast, but from time to time, I do invite friends or other people who are not native German speakers. We do the podcast in English then. I do know that most people speak enough English in Germany to understand English speaking podcasts. Um, if you do not, please use the subtitles on YouTube if you want to listen to that episode. And to all my English speaking listeners, please do the same in reverse if you want to listen to a podcast episode which is in German. Orla is the sister of world-famous Irish rugby player Anthony Foley, the late Anthony Foley, or Axel Foley. And we do speak about him and about the sport in Ireland, and specifically about Orla's charity fundraiser, Orla's Wild Ways. But more than that, we do speak about Orla's practice as a healer. I have been and am a client of Orla as a healer, and we speak about healing and different healing modalities. And I can only tell you that Orla is a magician at what she does, and I think is quite beneficial for you to listen to what she has to say or to what we speak about. Find some nuggets of gold in there. And if you want, just book a session with her. I can highly recommend Orla. And other than that, I wish you a lot of entertainment, maybe a little bit of education and elevation in this podcast with Orla Foley. Dear Orla, this podcast usually happens in German. Now we're just doing it in English. Unless you have picked
Meine
up some...
Deutsch ist nicht so gut.
Okay, but that's not too bad. And for the podcast listeners, maybe why don't you begin as far as you can remember to let our listeners know how did we meet?
We met at Cannes Film Festival, if I recall correctly, 2019.
2019 already.
Yeah.
Before COVID.
Yeah, the year before the pandemic. Before it all went pitong.
That was a great fucking Cannes.
That was one of the best.
Yeah.
And then I adopted you as my Cannes husband.
Right. I was your husband for
my +1 to all the parties I was invited to.
After the first one was the Thai Princess Ball or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
You came.
We dragged each other along onto the VIP events as husband and wife. If one of us got in, the other one was a +1.
Yeah.
So that's how we were artificially married for a brief
3 days.
period of time. 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so you're my Cannes husband. You're one of my Cannes husbands, and I believe in Cannes husband bigamy.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They would also be my other Cannes husband.
I'm jealous
which
now.
Is how we met, And there's room for a third if anyone's interested.
Yeah. So that is how we initially met during the film festival, and we met again, and you visited us at some point 2 years ago, I believe it was.
Yeah, but the important thing about how we met was we met in Cannes at the film festival. But the strength of our connection was both from a therapeutic background.
Right, and that brings us to your professional background. What is it that you do?
I'm a very holistic physio.
A physiotherapist.
Yes.
Okay.
Part of my hero's journey would have been I studied bioscience. I didn't like working in the lab. And I went and I studied physical therapy, which I loved. But as part of that journey, when I was in Romania working in the orphanage, I experienced craniosacral and Reiki for the first time. And all my life up to that point in 2000, I was a little bit out of sync. And that was the first time when I got off the table after having Reiki and craniosacral therapy. For the first time in my living memory up to that point, I was in sync.
Nice.
And everything just seemed...
So you knew that is what you wanted to do as well?
Yes, because I knew I just experienced what I was been searching for all my life. And obviously, unfortunately, you don't know that at the start. That in sync feeling doesn't stay. Is not a constant, like a flick of a button and you're completely in sync all the time. So the hero's journey was learning how to be in sync and making lifestyle changes and changing my diet, changing many things, thought processes, friend groups, what I put my energy into, what I withdrew my energy from. And doing that as an Irish person in 2000 was quite difficult at times. Like I went vegetarian, and vegetarian in Ireland, then you had two options normally.
Potatoes?
No, to be fair, they were very, very European. We are part of Europe. You could have normally a pasta based with a tomato based sauce, or you could have a pasta with a cream sauce. And one of the things I learned around that time, dairy and gluten weren't my friends. So, it was difficult.
And that has recently transpired to be
repeating.
Totally not your friend, like you cut it out.
Yeah, I'd cut it out then too.
You did?
I cut out meat and gluten and dairy because a part of that, what had manifested by the time I was in Romania, I had irritable bowel syndrome. And I was on the doctor merry-go-round, going from one consultant to the other. And luckily, I had an amazing GP at the time. And
GP is what?
A general practitioner, your doctor. She was very holistic herself and very supportive, and actually more of a therapist. She'd have made a great psychotherapist. She listened. She gave you time. She saw you. She had great presence. And I could see I was on the consultant, going to one specialist after another specialist on the medical system, and I wasn't getting anywhere and it wasn't changing. So I became my own practitioner. I started listening, and I just qualified in physical therapy, and I decided to go study craniosacral therapy with one of the leading teachers in the world, Thomas Attlee in London. I'd been reading his articles. I knew I'd starting to listen.
Can you explain what it is? Because I didn't know what craniosacral therapy was until you did it with me 2 years ago, and
What was your experience?
I was quite surprised. That was my experience, first of all, surprised, because I thought, well, that's part of physiotherapy, and you should crack me and do some manual stuff and movement. But I just, as far as I remember, you did, there was, the first part was speaking, analysis, basically.
History taking.
History taking, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you even did a small EMDR.
Oh, you got the full
intervention
works
with me. But then I lay down and you just took my head in your hands. And on a purely physical level, like if someone had observed the process from the outside, that would have been it. You didn't crack my spine or my shoulders or anything. I think you did some slight touches and movements, but not the usual thing that people expect, like grand gestures. And I always keep coming back to cracking the spine or bones, but that's not what happened.
No.
What happens in craniosacral?
A pure craniosacral session would just be craniosacral therapy alone.
Yeah.
You got a mix. You got the all sorts version, which is
And
the version.
by the way, to add to my experience, I came to you with, like, we did an exchange, like a systemic constellation for a craniosacral, like we exchanged services. And the topic that I brought to the table for me as your patient or client, however you call it, was I think that was one of my vertebrae in the spine, which sometimes pops out, and then I get all stiff for a week, and it really sucks. And it was way better after the session with you, which was even more confusing, quote unquote, to me, because I expected some mechanical labor to be done to my spine in order to correct it. But you didn't. You barely touched me. But still, my physical well-being was way better. So how is that possible?
It's tuning in and listening to your inherent life force, the fundamental life force in your body, and honoring that wisdom within you, and allowing that wisdom time to come back into balance and homeostasis. There's a whole technical way people talk about, mid tides, long tides, fundamental, but in a nutshell, it's just that battery fluid life force that gives you life and gives me life and animates us, and actually honoring the wisdom and allowing that to navigate and rebalance your energy channels. And therapists are just facilitators. The key thing is your body does the healing. We just allow it to remember how to do it.
I understand it. If this were a critical podcast, then I would have to think of all the critical listeners and add questions in order to make your point bulletproof. But I think that's not even possible.
Well, I can give a simple version. Like there's a pure mechanical version, which would have been the old model that people like to grasp onto, and it's a purely mechanical model that I don't know many therapists that would work off the mechanical, but it was a very simplistic way of looking at that your brain and your spinal cord are in its own little sea called cerebral spinal fluid, the fundamental life force, battery fluid.
So there's like the translation from the energy language to the baseline medical language. So there has to be something physical that we can touch, and that would be the spinal fluid.
Yeah.
And that is more graspable for the common mind than life force.
Yeah, but it is. It's what gives you energy. Like we all eat food for energy. We use energy, like everyone's counting calories. But yet if you say about energy to them, they're like, oh, that's a bit voodoo. But they're there with their calorie counters. It's all energy. And it's just, but people will chunk it down to the language that is very digestible. So some people like the mechanical language. And sometimes if you have a difficult birth process, or trauma, or a car crash, or a head injury, all that mechanics can get disrupted, and there can be restrictions in your neck, and that fluid doesn't get to move freely. Like simple things like shallow breathing, that impacts your vitality and how that fluid moves. So this very simplistic model that helped me very early on, 25 years ago, was like our brain is like a tadpole, a baby frog, and our spinal cord is like the tail. And sometimes people's body, if you've got low energy, low vitality, that tail isn't moving. And then that sea of fluid called cerebral spinal fluid is stagnant, and people are a bit flat and lost their vitality. And then by very gently with coming along and putting hands on, the base of the neck, the sacrum, you can help rebalance and allow the space so that whole system can express itself freely, and that simple tail can begin to move, and vitality in the fluid moves, and any restrictions that have been holding someone back can be released. And then you can go way into quantum physics.
That's maybe an interesting point to let our listeners know why you're running through open doors with me here, because my line of work is in a way the same. We also have like a worldly explanation for why systemic constellation works, like mirror neurons and stuff like that. But at the end, when we work with the field, as we say, of a person with their internal or family or relational system, it's also like different laptops all connected through Wi-Fi. And the Wi-Fi you can't touch. It's that invisible force field where information is transmitted. And the main point is, in both our cases, it works.
Yeah, and
It works darn good.
And it's a really interesting point. I've worked with families, you know, husbands and wife, daughters, grandparents, and it's really interesting. The same patterns turn up. You can feel it in the energy field, and it's always like, it's amazing.
Yeah, and we just spoke about transgenerational trauma also. And there's
Which
a lot
is scientifically proven.
Which is by now scientifically proven, as is, I actually think that forms of therapy like what you do with craniosacral, or what I do with the systemic constellations, or what other people do with whatever, the main question is, does it work? And does it work for many people in many cases? Is it replicable? Is the success replicable? Oh my God, my English is really bad today.
In a scientific, yes, it does work, but it would be purely, what's that word? My English is gone too. Oh my God, the word will come to me. Anecdotal. So because you can't, for science, you need to be able to replicate in the same environmental temperatures and conditions and atmospheric pressure, in the same conditions, the same diet the person would have had to be eating as the other person, the same sleep, so it's not possible to replicate. And each treatment is tailored to the individual and what they need.
Yeah, that's not what I meant about replicating. I mean, does this method create success for different clients and not just one? That's exactly the point.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Otherwise, because we're both paid by the free market, not by the social security system, and people wouldn't come and return to us if we didn't help them.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
That's the point.
People are very happy, and I work from the cradle to the grave, from like newborns to people in their latter years and their golden years, and everyone, bar maybe 2 people in 25 years, haven't found that it was for them. And I'd always say to people, if the way I work doesn't work for you, doesn't mean holistic therapies don't work.
Yeah,
Try something else.
It's just the connection between the specific client and the specific healer.
Yeah, and the technique.
Yeah.
And that's part of when you ask about the hero's journey, it's willingness to listen to my inner sat-nav.
And what is sat-nav?
Internal navigation, like Google Maps. Yeah. Just to not just go, okay, I've trained as a physical therapist, this is what I'm going to wear the hat forever. Or before that, I was a scientist. This is my identity. This is who I am, because that's what people did before us. Previous generations, you just stuck in a good pensionable job, and that's what you did. But I just luckily could listen and go, oh, I need to learn craniosacral therapy. And then as part of my craniosacral therapy journey, which was the most wonderful over and back to London from Ireland, fabulous experience. Thomas Attlee is still teaching today. He's an amazing in the London College of Craniosacral Therapy. I can often hear his voice in my head, because I hadn't realized he'd used hypnotic trance to train us. And it was only later when I trained in that I knew, that's why he was such a good teacher. He naturally did it naturally, which was a gift, thank God. And on my graduation from that course, I was introduced to Julian Baker, who brought Bowen technique from Australia. And one of my tutors had been studying Bowen, which is how that, and I had already experienced it. And I was like, Cranio I could get because it's hands-on,
Mhm.
whereas Bowen is a bit different. It's hands-on, hands-off.
Mhm.
So for adults, I leave the room.
Mhm.
And I'd call Cranios like my first child.
Mhm.
Everything it did is like, oh my God, if you're not sleeping well, Cranio can help you sleep.
Mhm.
If you have digestive problems, Cranio can help you with digestive problems. If you have anxiety, Cranio can help you. If you've hurt your back from a really serious accident, craniosacral can do this. You know, it's if you're carrying wounds from childhood or from your birth process, craniosacral can help you with it. So I'd sing it from the rooftop about cranio.
Mhm.
And then I trained in Bowen, which helps all of the previously mentioned ones and more as well. But it's like the second child.
Mhm.
It's not as surprising when you see it the second time. And it doesn't take as much effort. It actually takes a whole lot less effort.
Wow.
And it's less therapist dependent. I always say a trained monkey could do Bowen technique, you know, and it'll still work. Whereas craniosacral therapy, the therapist needs to be aware and conscious and mindful and present.
Yep.
And that really helps Bowen technique and makes it really well. But if you're not, it still works. So, and I used to work with sports teams as the team physio. And when I learned Bowen technique, it made my life so easy as a therapist. And my players loved it too, because they saw the results and it was easy to treat a whole squad in something that didn't take a lot.
What kind of sports team?
The Irish sport is called hurling, which is like hockey on speed. It's and steroids. It's a very amazing sport, quite dangerous, but amazing to watch. And then rugby.
Rugby.
So, and then I trained in Reiki, which also one of my tutors in craniosacral, and I love that. That really was a really great personal journey of healing for me as well. And I was a bit shy about talking about Reiki because I'm Irish. The Catholic Church had a huge impact in Ireland, as we were previously talking about. And in 2001, the Catholic Church decreed that yoga and Reiki were banned.
Banned from what?
Just banned.
Oh, banned.
Banned.
So,
full
like,
banned.
if you want to be in the club,
Yeah,
then
you want to be in the Catholic club, no yoga, no Reiki. So I learned it.
I wonder how many yoga teachers
Knew that.
gave a fuck.
Well, what made me wonder, the more I went down the journey of it, is I loved Jesus and still do.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was fascinated with his stories of healing. That's what really, that was what I was interested in to this day. The dogma and a lot of other things.
Maybe Jesus did some sort of Reiki when he put his hands on and healed.
Yeah, exactly. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah.
And then fast forward 2 years later when I was training as a yoga teacher in India, there's books everywhere about when Jesus lived in India. Where was he between 12 and 30? So it is interesting that the ban, but because my self-autonomy wasn't as strong in 2000 and by the time I learned Reiki was 2003. I didn't know myself. I was only 24. I was only growing up, beginning to grow up. Like the adolescent brain doesn't fully mature till you're 25. So I learned it. Didn't advertise it as much. But then I did my master's level in it, and that gave me confidence. And I had a great tribe in it. I even started to begin to teach Reiki, which was lovely. I loved the dynamics, and I'm still great friends with my students. They're great therapists, and really enjoyed that energy and that growth of that workshop space. And yeah, so I've been self-employed as a therapist since 2000, and I keep adding. I I live my life the way my soul calls me to live it. So part of that was I used to travel in the winter. I lived in a little tiggin in Ireland and worked in it, which means a small house. And it was so old, it was cheaper to be away and travel in the winter. And when I worked with teams, my job would finish at the start of October anyway, because the season would be finished. So rather than pay heating in Ireland, I went traveling, which was my greatest learnings and my greatest breaking free of a lot of the conditioning that has been passed down by society and beliefs and limits about yourself, or limits about what can happen in healing, or limits about where you can go in life. And traveling and meeting people from other cultures and having other experiences has been one of my greatest teachers. So I've been very privileged to be able to do that. And my poor mother used to always say, you can't close your business, you'll have no business when you come back. But then just before I'd come back, people would start ringing looking for appointments. When I'd come back, I call it, I'd go walkabout. So it's the strength to actually know this is what my soul is calling. This is what I have to do. It may be not what society says you should do. But
I mean, society has opened up quite a bit since the early 2000s, and I feel like the process is even speeding up now. People and systems get more. We felt it today in the work that the current times, as tough and tumultuous as they are also very beneficial for personal and collective development. So I think it's going to be more fun in the future, even, and much less judgment in the future than was there in the early 2000s.
Yes, hoffentlich.
Yeah, hoffentlich. Wait a second. Let me quickly put the chargers in the cameras. Because I forgot that.
Thank you.
I got it.
I can do
You see, that was a very spontaneous podcast invitation. Orla's coming. Why not record a podcast with her? And I'm quite happy we're doing it. Okay, let's continue. Where were we? I want to jump real quick, basically to my question. So what I also know about you is you love cycling on your bicycle.
I love riding around Europe.
Right. And you take your bicycle in, where in Ireland do you live?
Killaloe, County Clare.
And that is
Southwest Ireland.
Southwest Ireland. Okay, and you leave your front door with your bicycle and you go all the way down to the south of France.
Yes.
That's crazy to me.
To Pisa.
To Pisa, even.
In Italy.
Okay. How long does it take you? I mean, obviously you don't cycle through the ocean, you take ferries, but then you go by land. How long?
Oh, that is a very good question.
You don't know because you smell the roses.
Yes, I do. I stop and smell the roses, and the honeysuckle is also lovely in May. I would estimate so far I must have at least 7 weeks of cycling done, because I don't do it in one whole. You know, the first.
You visit friends and.
Yeah, so the first time I left Ireland, went to Roscoff by ferry, cycled down to the west coast of France to Bordeaux, and then we cycled across the canals to Toulouse and as far as Carcassonne. And then that's where that journey ended. And then the next time I flew back in, because the first time as far as Carcassonne was with 4 of us cycling. The next time it was meant to be 2 of us, but my friend couldn't come. So I picked up the cycle in Béziers, which was the nearest airport to Carcassonne. And I cycled from Carcassonne all the way as far as Toulon. And I was meant to do 5 days cycle. And I think I did maybe 4 days because I got sick going through Marseille from a bug, a gastrointestinal bug. So I quit my cycle and went and met G in Cannes, which was lovely. And then the next time I came back, which was last year, I picked up my cycle in Toulon. I cycled to Saint-Tropez, Saint-Martin, and back to Cannes, and then had a wonderful time again in Cannes. And then on
As usual.
to Pisa, where my bike is still in Pisa with a friend. So I intend to pick that up and see where I go with my cycle at the end of August.
You seem to be much less irritated about our little intruder than I am, because the cat snuck in before I could close the podcast studio's doors. But we'll leave him in for now, right?
He doesn't bother me.
And
he just wants attention.
For our listeners to know, if there's any noise, it's either a cat or my lovely partner and children outside, because I think my son is on sound now, has been a couple of times. But you know, this podcast is just starting. And so you do love to travel, and you love to travel on bicycle.
Yes, it's a gift my brother gave me. I used to cycle as part of triathlon, and I didn't love to cycle. I never could get comfortable on the saddle. I kept trying to buy my way into comfort, that I had to try this saddle and change that saddle, change the setup. But then I learned the only way to get comfortable is time spent on the bike.
Right.
And unfortunately, my brother died 8.5 years ago. And
what was his name?
Anthony. And as part of my grief process, I cycled the Camino 6 months after he died. And it was a beautiful journey. It was very raw grief because my brother died suddenly. And it really helped my processing of grief. I was able to cry freely on the bike. I was also traveling with a friend who was going through his own life challenge. And it was nice to have that space out in time, and the journey. And even the start of that journey, because I'd had a bad accident 3 months beforehand off a horse. Like up to the week beforehand, I wasn't sure whether my body would be fit enough or hold up. Even so much so, I had a few flights booked from different sections of the route in case I needed to eject and say, this is not for me. So that brought nerves of an unknown journey. But as I cycled, it was so healing and curative.
Yeah, especially on the Camino.
Amazing. Such a beautiful journey. And when I think about it, I remember how raw and unhealed I was at the start.
I have to kick out the cat because he's starting to eat the plants.
Very tasty. He knows. He knows how to get kicked out.
Sure.
Come on. He knows how to get the door opened.
Right.
Pavlov Florian. So I really found the benefits of the healing part of the journey. Like at the start of the journey, I was unhealed on an emotional level and a physical level. And as I journeyed through the Camino, the Ruta del Norte, which was stunning, I got stronger in every way and healed. And by the time we got to Santiago de Compostela, I was just ecstatic and happy, but also sad that the journey was over.
Yeah. Where did you start it from?
Biarritz. Biarritz in south of France.
Yeah. Right.
So I flew into Biarritz, and it was, if I was to do it again, I'd do it slower. Because there's...
Yeah, I got that, because you're not a fast, you're not a too ambitious sporty traveler, but you enjoy the ride.
I would have liked to stop in more places and savoured and smell the roses, and although there wouldn't be too many roses in March.
And it's also interesting for me to hear, because your mom died recently, 4 weeks ago, and maybe we can speak about that also, because you told me that you're not in deep grief in the way that people usually expect one to grieve after someone has died.
It's not that not in deep grief. Like, I grieve my mother,
Yeah.
but I'm not in despair and
Not
distress
in
about it.
despair, not in,
I'm
yeah,
not like the wailing wall I was after my brother died.
right.
I'm very at peace. My mother died peacefully, which is all I prayed for when she died of cancer, side effects of the treatment for her myeloma. The cancer treatment worked, but as a result of the immunosuppressant nature, she got infections that caused renal failure. So that's what she died of. And when she was in that process in hospice, I just prayed that she could die with peace and grace, and she did. And they're
So
amazing.
that was the difference between your brother's death and your mom's death?
Well, my mum was much older. You know, she was diagnosed 12 years ago. She's had.
So she
an
was older and you
amazing-
had time to prepare. Is that probably it?
Yeah. And also, she had time with her grandkids. She had time to have that journey, and I'm really happy for her. She had that time, and they had a very special relationship, and and it was really about that time. And also, she'd been sick a few times. She got a very serious disease called encephalitis. 3 years ago. I'm mixing up timelines. It was when I finished cycling in Ireland. I'd finished cycling the Wild Atlantic Way. She got encephalitis. So that would have been, yes, 4 years ago. She got encephalitis, and she got the very rare form, which is even more deadly. And she survived that and came back from that. And she got 2 years ago then another superbug disease called C. diff, Clostridium difficile. And that was very tough. So there was a few, and it was funny, from both of them, I knew she was going to come back from them. But this time I knew she wasn't getting out of this. So there was time and preparation. And it was her time. She was heartbroken after my brother. I would say never fully recovered, but she lived for the grandkids and she had a great relationship with them. So, yeah. So I'm very at peace, which is discombobulating for other people. And it was confusing for me because I was and am feeling the peace.
Yeah.
But when people ask me how I'm doing, the easiest way I can describe it is surprisingly okay.
Yeah.
Or weirdly good. Because I didn't know you could experience this. I'd never heard people talk about it in depth.
Yeah, when we spoke on the phone, I recall that you were glad that I know the experience, and I was surprised because I thought, well, isn't it for many people like that to not, how do I put it, to not suffer too harshly after someone has passed away? Because I felt from like the first time someone died in my life consciously was my grandpa when I was whatever 12, 13, and I remember being at the funeral and people in black and crying, and I didn't feel sad at I loved my grandpa, but I didn't feel sad at all. Also, I didn't found it gruesome to see his body, but I felt, well, this is totally normal, and I'm quite happy for him because he's home. And I remember at that young age, I felt like, oh my God, I should cry too. And I tried to squeeze out some tears or make myself more or less invisible, which obviously today I think would have been unnecessary. But, and I think children have that quite often. And of course, it's a different if someone dies prematurely or from suicide or an accident. That sucks, and I did grieve and suffer and cry in such instances, and obviously also when people died from natural causes. But first of all, there's a difference, and in general I feel what death is probably hard for the people who have to live on, and not so much for the people who died. And
Yes, because they're
therefore, I'm quite happy for them. And by the way, we see it in the constellations where each time we uh, take a representative for death, a human representative, and clients are usually really scared about it because it's a topic in their life because they have cancer or anything. My God, no, what? I don't want to confront death, but if we do it playfully in the constellation process, then death usually happens to be a hugely benevolent force, like very positive, very loving. And I felt that from when I was a kid, and that's why I was not at all surprised when you described on the phone that you felt at peace and not as bad as some people around you expect you to feel. Let's advertise this a little bit, because everyone's going to lose someone in their life at some point.
yeah,
And the
and
reaction is going to be different. Like with your brother and your mom, obviously it's very different due to circumstances and age and relationship. But I think whatever way you feel is okay, and there's no specific one way that you're supposed to feel when someone dies.
yeah, you just have to allow yourself process and be where you are in each moment and just honor your feelings and where you're at. The other interesting thing about grief, and I've probably done it myself, is it activates other people's grief.
Interesting. Do you have an example?
If someone is still very hurt by losing their own brother or their own mother, it brings it all back up for them.
Okay.
And you can
that I
feel
understand.
that energy and that emotion. And it's a beautiful moment.
It can be a beautifully shared moment.
Yeah, it's a beautifully shared moment because you get to see something you otherwise wouldn't have. Like I always describe the grief club when you've lost someone near and dear. It's totally different. Like I loved my grandparents, and when they were died, I was very at peace, very happy, because that was just, they were old people. That was normal. You missed them, but it wasn't hugely upsetting. But when your brother goes at 42 in his sleep, that rocks your world. That's a grief like no other. Like I'd never experienced that. I met a sound it's called the banshee in Ireland. It's a sound that people listen out for, but it's a wailing sound. I'd never met that sound before. I didn't even know I had that sound in me. And, the pain that you feel in your hearts the first few days.
I think I would make that sound potentially too if my younger brother died.
Yeah.
I think that is some very specific loss. I lost some people to suicide in their early 20s and one also in his teens. And that was also different, the natural cause death. But even I think family members is also much tougher. And I think the worse than a sibling would be your own children. That would be probably the worst.
Yeah. And hopefully, I definitely won't feel it. And hopefully you're spared it.
I'm quite positive. Even though I will probably get quite old, I'm quite sure that my children will way survive me, even because I started quite late.
Please God. And yeah, it's so I call it the grief club. When it visits you and knocks on your door. You don't know about it until you're in the club, and you wouldn't invite anyone in. Yet everyone gets to experience it. And you look at life differently. Things that mattered before really don't matter at the end of the day. And the big lesson that came for me from Anthony's death was the understanding, as we spoke earlier, about the difference between ego and our learned behaviors and our ego patterns and spirit, that indomitable, unconditional love that lights our fire, that life force that just burns in us and here for our soul's purpose and our mission, and the impact that has each and every one of us has that.
Let me ask you, because we're doing this not for ourselves, this podcast, even though it is very improvised this time. But what advice would you give a listener for how to connect with that part of themselves, this eternal part, the life force, that which is not, as you say, the ego with its programming, but that pure part where contentment and happiness reside and where you make good choices in life from?
Nature is a very good place to start. It's a very simple place to start. Go back to what you liked when you were a 7-year-old child. What did you like to do at 7? What fed your soul? Go back to spending your time with people that made you content, like you were when you were a 7-year-old child. People who cared about you and saw you and wanted the best for you and cheered you on. And like the bullies and the people who caused discomfort and challenge when you were younger, walk away from them. Let go and cut ties, because we are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most amount of time with. So if someone's disturbing your peace and not respecting your growth and your want to be true to who you are, spend time with people who will nourish you and elevate your growth, because you'll elevate each other together. And spending quiet time, like yoga was huge. I've started doing yoga around 2001. I would have had what I would have called before craniosacral and that moment of feeling in sync. I would have had what I'd call the monkey mind. And I spent years trying to learn how to meditate, but it was only at the end of yoga that I'd get that quiet in my mind and that peace. And then I spent all these years trying to get that in a seated meditation practice. And when I finally got there, I realized I'd been doing it all my life, walking my dogs in nature, walking meditations, or playing music, just simple being.
So it doesn't have to be a grand spiritual path for everyone. Sometimes you just go back to what you already know would work for you.
Yeah.
You just have to recognize it.
Yeah. Painting, writing, anything that just fills your well, just makes you believe in yourself and others. And anything that brings out the monkey mind or the critical mind and disrupts your peace is disconnecting you from that inner knowing.
Or maybe challenging you to keep that connection despite the disruption.
Absolutely.
Well, because I was just thinking about intimate relationships, and I know the 5 people rule. However, sometimes in intimate partnerships, your intimate partner is precisely the person who causes you the most pain.
Absolutely.
And first of all, especially when they're children, we can't just run away from them or
they're your
change them.
responsibility.
Yeah, right. But I find it's like there's exceptions to the rule, first of all.
Well, that goes without saying. Anyone under 18 is your
saying, and then also because sometimes it may sound to some people, as soon as someone bothers me, I go away and I exclude them from my life. But sometimes this disruption is, or being triggered is necessary for us to grow, especially when you feel that the trigger resonates with something from our past, like a partner who behaves or apparently behaves the same way our mom or our dad did. And that kind of nagging comes into an otherwise beautiful relationship, then it's probably not the time to run away, but to turn inward and face whatever is being pointed at.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to quantify that, because when you were talking about intimate relationships, I'm talking about friend groups.
Right.
It's,
like there is
where you spend your energy, and
and that needs to be curated well.
Yeah.
But once you chose people to be with because it's a great relationship,
and your values are aligned,
and your values are more or less aligned, and then this happens, I think that's where people need to be, maybe it's not always time to change relationships, but sometimes to
change how you turn up in the
accept
relationship.
the gifts that are in relationships with other human beings, even though the gifts may feel like poisonous arrows at this moment. I just wanted to add that because
and that's a good one. And then it's also understanding that we communicate differently. Some people communicate with emotions. Some people communicate with actions, the language of love. And it's actually learning and teaching people what we need to see, feel, and hear to know that we're loved. But a person's not a mind reader. Like, some people think love is giving gifts. Other people think love is giving hugs, because that's what their language of love. And it's learning to communicate our needs and what we want and what the other person wants, and being able to listen. A lot of time when people start trying to explain and communicate, they think the finger is pointing that you're doing this, because
it's blame. The blame game usually doesn't really work.
It's like that lovely, when you do this is what I feel when you behave that way. And I know you don't realize the behavior triggers me like that, but this is what I feel. And if I don't tell you, how are you to know? And it's like, oh, okay, I never realized.
It's funny because I had that with Eva recently, and I even spoke about it in another podcast episode, that at the moment we're practicing to ask each other how they meant something after they said it, because whatever someone, especially an intimate partner, says to us goes through our filter, which has built from past experience, and sometimes we completely not only misunderstand what the other person said, but misinterpret their intentions. And that's where we just started to ask each other, like whenever says something like today, I already forgot what it was. And I feel this triggering physically, emotionally, and I get aware, okay, maybe, and my monkey mind says, she tries to manipulate you right now. She wants to make a point, but indirectly, like, and before I react, or before she reacts to something that I said, we right now try to practice, first of all, pausing before the impulsive reaction, and then taking a few breaths and saying, you just said this and this. Can I ask you how you meant it? Or I can say, and my thought is that you implied this and this. Is that really true? Did you mean it that way? And then the other person has a chance to to put it bluntly, to speak their reality and how they meant it and what their real intention was, and then I have a chance to,
rather than you mind reading.
Okay, so I would have put my negative interpretation that comes from my past experience onto what you just said, but you didn't mean it that way. And that's one of many things that people can do to make their lives and their relationships easier.
In particularly your relationship with yourself,
Hmm.
because you're not going to be flagellating yourself or
Hmm.
others if you can be honest and go, my monkey mind was about to ride off into the sunset,
Hmm.
wearing that on its back. Whereas I love myself enough to go, can you explain what you meant by that?
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, because it does take a bit of bravery
Hmm.
to, it's easier to put it on your back and
Hmm.
hump off
Yeah.
because it's the quiet life, whereas you actually go, yeah, I like that. That would really help with your relationship with yourself.
By the way, I do, now that you say that, I actually remember that when I'm aware enough, I sometimes even do that with myself, with when I have catastrophizing thoughts, for example. There's a quote from the writer Paulo Coelho. It goes something like, when evil comes to your tent and speaks to you and tries to convince you of something, monkey mind, then invite it into your tent and let it speak. And if it pauses speaking, then invite it to speak some more and continue that process until evil got tired, and then you just get up and leave the tent. And I think that points to a great old practice of, if my monkey mind starts creating dramatic, anxiety-driven thoughts about any issue that might be a threat or manipulation or whatever, I find it very helpful to put my conscious intention to listening to that monkey and not trying to negotiate or suppress it, but to ask for more. And then for some reason, that stream of thought usually subsides quite quickly.
And then recently I've got to listen to Mel Robbins.
Yeah, she's great.
And the one I love from her from that is, and what if?
Hmm.
What if it works out?
Hmm.
What if it is best case
Yeah.
scenario? What if their intention was just pure love and just it came across in a rushed, hurried way that I misinterpreted it? What if? So
Or
what?
adding to that, maybe even the Stoics, like, so what if the worst happened? What would be the worst that could happen? And then, so to speak, say, well, am I gonna survive? Because often the object of fear wouldn't be as cruel if it were to become reality as it is in our expectations and thought. It's like, to make this clear with an example, the fear of speaking publicly. I find the fear of speaking publicly before being on stage and, for example, losing your words or getting a high-pitched voice or not remembering what I wanted to say, the fear of that is far more aggravating than when it actually happens. And I know that because it happened. And it's not that bad when it happened, and you just stand there and you have to breathe. And people actually are, in general, very generous in such cases and not as humiliating as my mind would make it up.
I had similar recently
Hmm.
in my fall off the bike
Hmm.
when I went head over heels over the handlebar and used my teeth as a landing,
Hmm.
all of which I wouldn't recommend.
Hmm.
But it was one of the worst accidents I could have ever had. A helmet broke and broken up like I'd done.
Wow.
10 rounds with Rocky, bust my lip and really hurt my hand and shoulder. And I still have a bruise, and that was 6 weeks ago
Yeah.
from a hematoma on my leg. And, it was just, but yeah, the what if it happened.
Mm.
And I was okay.
Mhm.
I've healed. I'm back to work now. The people in cars stopped to help me.
Mhm.
I was cycling on my own. When I got to hospital, I was in and out in 2 hours in
Wow.
Faro. I was able to find an amazing craniosacral
So
therapist.
that was in Portugal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was able to find an amazing craniosacral therapist the next day, and then I had reflexology the next day, and then I had Bowen technique when I got home.
Mhm.
And even like when I woke up when I got home and there was, I had bloody nose, I was able to get to see my doctor nearly immediately. So the worst case scenario happened
Yeah.
and I've healed.
And if you had broken your arm, it would have sucked, but the arm would have healed also eventually.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I did. And the only really part that really hurt about hurting myself was when it came to my mother's funeral.
Mhm.
I couldn't sympathize with people. I had to wear a sling to protect myself because,
Mhm.
it just wasn't possible.
Yeah.
That, and I do love hugs, but
Mhm.
I found by the end of the funeral on the Friday, I was like a bear with a sore paw because
Mhm.
I was so guarded from having to mind my body. Because
Mhm.
even when people know you're injured, they just can't stop.
Yeah.
It's human nature to
Yeah.
touch. So it's nice. This week is the first week I feel I can hug properly and not be
You
guarded.
give great hugs now.
Yeah, I love hugs.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest cost to me for
Yeah.
falling
Yeah.
off my bike. Yes, I miss work. Yes, I've spent a lot of money on having to have the treatments to get myself back, but that's all priceless.
Yeah.
But like the hugs, they can't be bought.
Mhm.
And being able to meet people and have that contact and not be guarded by it would be and I can never get that back. That was the true cost.
While we speak about your cycling, I completely forgot to ask you my question when we were speaking about your journeys earlier. What is Orla's Wild Days?
Orla's Wild Ways is my fundraiser.
Ways, not
Yeah,
days.
ways. But we
Orla's
can do
Wild
wild
Ways.
days. They'll come.
Come
Next
again?
episode.
I thought you were finished with the Wild Days.
Oh
Okay.
no. No, no, no,
Well, we
no.
probably have to do another episode then. Speaking of your
Yeah,
past wild days and the ones that might still come, even without the
absolutely.
alcohol.
Some of my wildest times are alcohol free
Hmm.
because you're totally free.
Yeah.
You have the freedom of your
Even
car
even
under
more
your
free.
ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's no, it's the so Orla's Wild Ways is a fundraiser I do in memory of my brother.
Hmm.
My brother was a very famous Irish rugby player.
Hmm.
He captained our province to the European Cup final in Munster. He's also known as Axel Foley, is what he'd be most known in Europe as. And he lived and died for rugby and he had great passion and
He
spirit.
died for rugby. Did he die because of rugby?
No, but he was the head coach and he died the night before a European game in Paris.
Oh.
Well, the team was over there getting ready for a big game.
Uh-huh.
And a huge amount of love and grief was poured out across Ireland and Europe and the world in memory of him. And
Wasn't there something that the enemy team did?
the Maoris, All Blacks,
Ah, yeah.
yeah.
What did they do?
Well, many teams formed, many teams, not just the Maoris, respected him. Like some of our arch rivals wore his number in their pre-game warm-up, and a lot of people wore our team color. And the Maoris, when they came a few weeks after he died, came and laid down a jersey and presented it to his sons on the pitch in our cathedral ground called Thomond Park. And it's a very special, iconic, beautiful moment. And many teams did many beautiful things, and he's still remembered and honoured. And he was a very generous man himself. He was indomitable spirit. He just wanted to do his best and live for rugby and leave the jersey and leave the game in a for the next person to pick up the jersey and put it on. And he loved it. He truly loved it. And he was involved with one of the charities I raise money for, called the Midwestern Cancer Foundation, who help and support people in our region with oncology journeys. They help provide machines, equipment for treatment of cancer, the chairs chemo patients sit in, free counselling, mindfulness training, reflexology, Bowen technique, all these supports.
Nice.
And this is the first time I've ever been able to say it, because my mother was incredibly private about her journey, but they were a huge support for her on her journey. And my brother, when he had his testimonial, gave most of the money to that charity, and he was their ambassador. And then the other two charities, so raised over 70,000 so far, is Midwest Cancer Foundation, who I've mentioned, CRY, who help screen people like us at risk of dying of sudden adult death, and they provide free bereavement support for families that have suffered the loss of a loved one suddenly from a cardiac myopathy. And I love them as a charity because Ireland is north and south. 6 counties of Ireland in the north of Ireland are in part of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And the other counties are part of the Southern Republic of Ireland. Yeah, it's a thing I love about Cry Ireland. It covers all 32 counties.
Nice.
And that's what I love about rugby.
It is inclusive.
It is. And that's why I love rugby. There is only one Ireland in rugby. It's 32 counties. It's, as someone once described to me, you can't geographically cut off the 6 counties, even though it's been done politically.
Yeah. Is there any movement towards uniting it now? Because, colonization has been a while.
That's an area I wouldn't be too up on. And it's an area I wouldn't be brave enough to delve into.
Okay. That would also be another podcast, and I have to help bring my kids to bed soon, but
yes,
let's still this little quick one.
And then the third charity is an amazing called the IRFU Charitable Trust. So that's our rugby body that helps support injured rugby players, mostly people that have spinal injuries, and helps.
Which probably happens rather often, unfortunately, in rugby. I imagine that's a quite...
Thankfully, not as often as you'd think, because it's a very rough sport. Yeah. And one of the reasons it doesn't happen as often as you would think for the roughness of it is there's a lot of rules in place to protect the players.
Okay, good.
Yeah, like any sport where there's contact, it can happen. And our governing body has an amazing charity that helps people adapt their lives, their homes, so that they can live full, purposeful lives. And it's an amazing charity.
Is there any possibility that you can share information for our listeners if someone wants to donate to the charity?
Yes, yeah. I have an iDonate link. I can share it with you. It's
and
an
I put
iDonate.
it under the video.
Yeah. And all the donations go directly to the charities through that platform, which I love it for transparency. It's nice. And if anyone ever wants to come on board with ideas or bring part of the fundraiser to you, like there's amazing parts to it. I've done my cycling, which I cycled the whole coast of Ireland, the Camino, and across Europe as far as Pisa so far. My sister has done her mermaid swims, which was like the English Channel, the Hudson Bay around New York, at the Catalina Straits, Gibraltar Straits. And a friend of ours who also played rugby for Munster in Ireland is part of a very successful rock band called Hermitage Green. And he wrote a beautiful love song for his pal, his friend, called Alone You Stand, in memory of Anthony. And that also was part of the fundraiser. Which was a really interesting journey. How do you monetize money from a charity single? It's quite difficult. So I had to learn a problem solve way, and luckily our rugby body, the Irish Rugby Union, allowed us to launch it at a very big rugby match. Ireland were playing the All Blacks at halftime and really supported us with that. And we just did a QR code with a link to the donation page that people could donate and get the download. And we did really well on that. That really helped. But it was a really interesting, because did you know if you have 1 million hits on Spotify, do you know how much you would get as a band?
$1?
Not that bad, but like
exaggerating, obviously,
but about €330.
that's nothing.
Yeah, so it's a tough. And it really opened my eyes to the challenges an artist in music. I was shocked, and it was a beautiful journey to get that out there. And the latest installation from the creative point of view is there's a play called Soldier Field. So the All Blacks.
What kind of a play?
It's an amazing play. It's about
like a theater play.
A theater play,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So a month after Anthony died, the All Blacks and Ireland played in Chicago in Soldier Field, a touring match. And in our history, the only team that ever beat the All Blacks was my province, Munster. And my dad played on that team in 78. And no senior Irish rugby team had beaten New Zealand All Blacks up to after Anthony died. And our team stood the figure of 8 in front of the All Blacks, because 8 was my brother's number. And
which, interestingly enough, is also the eternity number.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I even get hairs when I think about that match standing up, because it was just such a magical experience. And the last time Anthony played the All Blacks, the scoreline when we won was the reverse of the last time he had played them. And it was very magical, very special. And thankfully, Pat McCarry, who was a sports journalist, and he was lucky enough to be at the match, he wrote a fabulous play around it. And we have that on tour. So that comes back to, I think we've had 5 sold out runs of it already. And I think there's going to be maybe 6 more this autumn. And we are open to anyone who wants to help and bring it on tour, or a theatre production company that wants to take up a really special play and produce it. Yeah, contact us.
So anyone interested listening, go right ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a whole other journey. How do you earn money from another art for charity?
Yeah.
So, and
it's quite multifaceted. I like it.
Yeah, and for this one, I had to learn about corporate sponsorship and getting corporate partners who were very generous and amazing partners who came on board and got in behind the dream and the vision and really helped get it out there. And it's a whole new learning for me, and very excited. And unfortunately, I'm at the stage, because of the year I've had a few challenges, that I am reaching out to friends to help with the mantles to pick up. Like I've one friend's going to kindly help and pick up in Limerick. He's agreed to help with that side of things, but I'm going to be looking for other friends to help with the other area, because at the moment I'm not in the place that I can give what I've given.
Yeah.
I really just want to focus.
Understandably.
I'll help on what I can, but my focus would be to be back on the bike at the end of August and getting that over the line. The one thing, even though I'm very at peace with grief and in a very grounded, accepting place, grief is tiring, even when you're in that place, so just have to honor and listen to myself. And I think for as much as the fundraiser has helped me grow, it's time to ask people for more help. And so anyone who wants to help and can come on board and help, please do, because that's part of the fun, is working together as a team. Like, I work one-on-one individually with people. On occasions, I do workshops and well-being workshops and have run training courses. But the dynamic of growth is when you're working with other people with a shared vision. And the whole basis of my fundraiser was formed in positive psychology. It's literally to stop and smell the roses, create the memories, savor the memories, actually feel them, be present. You know, when I'd quit the cycle in Toulon, when I'd picked up the bug, my mantra was sometimes quitting is winning, because I had to listen to my body. Sometimes asking for help is winning.
Yeah.
You know, and really, I'm grateful for everyone who has helped me every step of the journey. I've had the most beautiful experiences, like my friend that cycled the Camino with me. That journey we shared together will be forever in my heart, and I'm so indebted for him and the support and the memories we created. Cycling across France with my friends, that was so special. As far as Carcassonne, people who have helped me on all the other parts of the journey. Like a friend of mine from home lives near Saint-Tropez, but he drove to Marseille to pick me up and drop me to Toulon with the bike, and got my bike together with his son and himself, Declan, and his wife welcomed me for a night. And it was just, and said, any help, Luca, who has my bike in Pisa, you know, people are so helpful. There's this amazing man, I'd never met him until a few years ago into the fundraiser, but he was like instrumental in helping me get it off the ground when I started. I call him Tony the Magician, and I do meet him regularly now, but he's just fabulous. He's retired, but he has the energy of a 20-year-old, the gusto, and he just loves everything, loves sharing, and is so generous. And he's just like, that is the beauty of a charity. When you have got shared purpose, when you're doing something altruistic for someone else with nothing in it for you, except for me, it's honoring my brother's memory. And in a way, I feel that my big brother is still coaching me, you know, because I would never have dreamed I'd cycle the coast of Ireland. I had heard of people doing it, but I would thought, oh, I'd never get to do that. I definitely wouldn't have thought I'd have been off cycling in Europe on my own, or have cycled across. Like, my younger self, if you told me that in 2019 when we met, I'd have said, I don't know what you're smoking, Florian, because, you know, and that's not that long ago.
Yeah.
You know,
It
so
really isn't. That's true. Yeah.
It's beyond my wildest dreams and what I want to do and the experiences I have. And I don't have a plan. I just make it up as I go along. And I love it.
And I am excited to be there and witness what your next stops on that journey are in Orla's wild ways.
And then it just doesn't stop with cycling. Like, my brother always loved my wild ways, and I always felt when he died, I was like, oh God, there was a bit to it, that it wasn't just being spiritual, because he got to experience it. You know, that there is more to life. You know, there's simple things like finding what works for you, being open to find what fills your cup. And it doesn't necessarily mean what fills your cup is going to fill someone else's cup. But allowing that space and that possibility to try, is this the cup for me? Okay, it's not. Okay, I'll try that cup. And that's the way I've lived my life, trying what an experience. It doesn't define me, but I'm just trying to figure out, does this fill my cup? So it's that journey, and I'm excited to see where that can go in life and what I can learn and grow and evolve.
Let's continue talking about that at some point. I think that's a good point to stop in this conversation. It felt like this was a warm-up. I didn't ask you about your core hero's journey yet, and I didn't ask you any of my questions, which I usually like to ask people.
Yeah, well, this is part one.
But since that was a very spontaneous podcast episode, since you're just with us today, Let's have it as a part 1 and
We'll have it
continue
as
with
part
part
1
2
to
at
be
some point.
continued.
Right. But it was wonderful to have a podcast with you while you were here with us in the room and not online. And I wanted to take advantage of that opportunity. And I thank you for saying yes to it.
Thank you for
It's a
having me
pleasure.
on. Yeah, I was curious. I was like, oh, podcast.
Yeah. And to anyone listening who took an interest in anything that was already touched, may that be the charity or a conversation about death even, let us know in the comments. And if Orla feels like it, then we might pick up on that next time.
Absolutely.
And deepen it.
then
Anything that helps.
I'm easy find. I'm on social media platforms, Orla's Wild Ways, ORLA. And then my own website is orlafoley.com, where all the links,
I'll
even the
link that
links,
too.
the links to the charity and what I do and about the therapies. And I do online consultations. So it doesn't matter where in the world you are.
Highly recommend Orla's work, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I highly recommend you as a patient. You're excellent. You're one of the best.
Sweet.
You're also an excellent therapist. I love working with you therapeutically. And
maybe we tomorrow morning we might do another constellation for you as well, if you like.
That would be lovely.
Good.
And I would highly recommend coming to Würzburg. It's one of the most beautiful cities. I love it. I think the Würzburg Tourist Board should have me on, because one thing I notice about here, it's very German or Austrian. You've kept this place hidden from the rest of the world. There's not many English speakers here.
Well, we all do speak English when...
No, I mean tourists.
Tourists.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny enough, not as many as there could be.
Yeah, because it's so beautiful.
It's kind of a hidden gem. That's true.
It's a real hidden gem. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's incredible. The river, the bridges, the golden hour.
I mean, I
food.
did grow up here, but I went away for a while, and I chose freely to live in this city because it actually is true what Orla says. It is not only my home, but it is truly a hidden gem.
And the people are one of the best part. The Bavarians in Würzburg are lovely, welcoming. It's very safe and tranquil around here, yet full of fun. You just hear people enjoying themselves and music everywhere. And a lot of people involved in sport. Cycling. I have a new cycle. Many people cycling the river. That's the most tourists I see. People with their bags and their bikes and panniers, and off they go.
Okay, let's wrap it up for now.
Absolutely.
And rant on about Würzburg next time. Thank you, Orla.
Absolutely. Thank you. That was lovely.